Hello and welcome to Hellbent Holler Live. Let us know you can see us and hear us, and we will get started with the show. Let's go ahead and get that overlay up. So that way you know who we are. How we doing? We're 5x5. Thank you, Gorgonok. Very cool. Got that overlay up. My name is Jesse Doyle. This is Joe Doyle, and this is the rootinest, tootinest, boot scootinest cryptid show on Monday nights at 7:30 p.m. on Hellbent Holler. YouTube channel, right?
Sounds like it to me.
Pretty
Sounds
accurate.
Like a plan,
pretty
so,
accurate.
Yeah. All right.
We want to welcome you to the show today. This is our freeform show that we do every Monday at 7:30 p.m. Sometimes we have topics that we'll discuss, and sometimes we kind of just go at it and go freeform, like I said. We had a crazy couple of days, so we are reeling from that. But we are so excited to be here with you guys today. And
there might be an occasional yawn tonight.
Yeah.
We went at it hard this weekend.
Oh my gosh. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But yeah, we kind of hit it. It was probably one of the most intense 24 hours we've had in a very long time. And we've had a lot of intense 24 hours at a time.
Chris Blaylock, thank you for supporting the channel with a membership. We appreciate
you, Chris.
If you like the content, we have memberships up. We are totally community funded. We don't really do advertisers or sponsors or anything like that.
We don't want to be beholden to big kitty litter.
Yeah, exactly. So if you like the stuff, we do have memberships that are available. And in addition to that, we got super chats. Curtis Whitaker every week.
Curtis, don't hurt us. Back in the game.
Curtis, we're going to miss you one week, and we're going to have to call out like a wellness check on you, man. You know what I'm saying? So
make sure you're still with us.
We appreciate you starting us off every week, Curtis. We greatly appreciate it.
It is awesome. We do appreciate it. Over the past couple of days, if you have been paying attention to our social media, my social media on Instagram and Facebook, you'll see there have been a couple of photos from the Uwharrie National Forest. We've been out and about in the Uwharrie for the past couple of days and hitting it pretty hard, checking out some pretty spooky spots with our boy MK Ultra. He has been insanely helpful in this project that we've been working on. So big shout out to MK Ultra. If he will start his channel back up, that would be pretty fantastic.
Yeah, we'll be able to kind of give him a plug at that point.
Absolutely.
So,
but we've had an absolute blast with him out there. Running around and getting some crazy evidence. So
Kim Drescher, and you were wearing your snake. Jesse had snake boots on.
I did.
MK and I had snake gaiters, and they just look. I know they're necessary. They just look so damn silly.
And when you walk, you have to kind of walk like it's an odd situation when you're trying to walk. My snake boots, I was still breaking those in, but they were definitely helpful. That's the thing about the Uwharrie National Forest is the snake situation is, as I like to say, bananas. Last year while we were out there, I think it was June we were out there. We were actually in the Burkhead Wilderness portion of the Uwharries, and we were at this really beautiful place that we always go to when we go up there, where there's these giant standing stones, and it just feels like just an otherworldly location. It feels magical up there. So we always have to go. We love going up there. And we were doing a night investigation up there, and I'm on top of this little rock, and Joe's filming me, and I have the tri-field running, and the tri-field just puts off this constantly. So I'm standing there and running the tri-field, and I hear it, and then I hear like another kind of noise, like a rattling, just this constantly. And I hold the tri-field away from myself, and I'm like, I'm still hearing it. I look down, and there is a 6-foot-long rattlesnake at my feet, kind of going by us. So Joe filmed that. We got that on camera, and I think we've shared that on the show before. I know we've shared it in a members live, but we shared it on the show before. So ever since then, we've been pretty gun shy about going into the Uwharries.
Snake shy. So.
Yes. Going into the Uwharries without necessary protection. And even with that level of protection, I am still nervous. Nobody really wants to get bit by a copperhead or a rattlesnake. So it's pretty treacherous stuff that we're getting into while we're out there. But we were so excited to be out there running around, doing some crazy stuff and filming some insane footage out there. So it was worth it. It's all worth it in the end. When we get all this out, you guys are going to go nuts over this whole project.
Couple quick things. Oki, thank you so much, sir. We greatly appreciate it. And then Sam Burton, thank you, sir. Hope everything is going okay down on the farm for you with all this freaking rain we're getting. I'd put this up briefly by mistake. Michael Tovar had said, Joe enjoyed listening to you and Aaron last week on the Small Town Monsters podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Hellbent Holler is just like taking Small Town Monsters over for like the past like 2 weeks. They re-released the LBL documentary that Jesse and I were in, and then I was on a show with Aaron Deese right after that. That was the biggest live audience I think they've ever had on on their live streams that they do on Wednesdays. So a lot of people turned out for that. It was great. Yeah. And then Alex Petikoff released my very sleep-deprived interview on one of the Appalachian.
I've got to add that in. So in the show notes below in the description, you will find a link to Dogman Terrritory. The full-length film is available on Small Town Monsters YouTube channel right now. Joe and I were featured pretty heavily in that. We talked about a lot of our research that we've done out there. And then under that is your interview with Aaron Deese concerning the release of Dogman Terrritory. And you guys get into it. You guys go for about an hour and a half on that interview. I'm going to also add into that description, I will add a link to the episode of Appalachian Bigfoot that Alexander Petikoff just released on STM's page of Joe's interview. Yeah. And it was, I think it was the first time that a lot of people got to hear the in-depth story about what you may have experienced out there.
Randy Richardson said, I'm really here. Oh man, I just realized my membership expired. I'll make you a deal. If you spot this post, I'll purchase the top membership tier just to say thank you. Post has been spotted, Randy. And the interview that you saw with Alex Petikoff was done on the tail end of when we filmed our investigation into the Brown Mountain Lights with him. So none of us had really slept for a few days.
No.
And I don't, excuse me, it's out in the rain all day. I don't usually talk about what I may or may not have seen as a kid, because like I mentioned in the interview, I don't know, man, I might have dreamed it. I might have gotten hoaxed. I just don't know. But at that point we were doing the interviews and like I said, we were both all running on like an hour's sleep a night, if that, for several nights. So I was a little bit more open about it than I normally am, but it's always good sitting down and talking to Alex Petikoff and the Small Town Monsters crew. The info for tonight, the topic for tonight was actually kind of a offshoot of the interview with Aaron, because there were so many questions that night that came up, and because there were so many people in the chat, we couldn't get to all of them. So Jesse and I decided we would just do an LBL show tonight, which is mostly going to be just viewer question directed, basically. So if I figured that's what we would just kind of go through and do. If you have not seen the interview with Aaron, I'm going to be doing this all night long with my throat. If you have not seen that interview with Aaron, check it out. Aaron's a good friend of ours. Aaron's got a big brain on him. Aaron's probably the best pure researcher that the Dogman topic has. As far as just being able to go through data, compile data, look for patterns, draw conclusions from those patterns. But he's very, very good. And he's like literally like one of our favorite people in this entire field. So it's always good when we can kind of hang out and talk to him. So
it is nice to have somebody that is so thoughtful and just so thorough with his research doing this kind of work. It's really, really a blessing to the subject and the community.
And the dark side, talking about the story about how I got into Bigfoot. Yeah, and I even threw that in there that if somebody did hoax me, I wouldn't even be upset at this point, man. I would thank whoever did it, because they kind of put me on a path into looking into like the mysteries of life that it's been such an enjoyable.
That was honestly my favorite part of your interview, was that kind of the way you ended it, where you had just this wonderful smile on your face, and you were like, even if somebody hoaxed me, it set me on a path, and I've got to see these things that I would have never experienced or seen before otherwise. And I think that was my favorite part, because you could just see that pure kind of joy and just gratitude that you had there.
And that's the crazy thing, is that we really, like, we're wiped out today, and it's tiresome, and we got a couple more real long weeks ahead of us. But at the end of the day, I love the topic. I love the people you get to like meet.
Yeah.
Even the trolls are entertaining sometimes. We've gotten a lot of mileage out of Naked Catman.
Catman. I honestly, I'm not mad in the slightest anymore. I think it's I think that naked Catman's kind of a blessing at this
Yeah, exactly.
point,
So
a joy and a blessing. We were talking about inviting him on to have a discussion.
But like I said, we basically, somebody's asking what's Aaron's channel. Aaron is with Small Town Monsters, the Small Town Monsters crew. He does usually, I think it's like once or twice a month. They do Wednesday night live streams, usually in relation to whatever they've got going on as far as like the releases at that point. So,
speaking of which, Terrritory says, cute hat, Jess. That kind of takes us into what we're talking about today. And I know you mentioned this earlier, but we'll get into this. Today I am wearing my Land Between the Lakes hat. So I thought I'd dress for the occasion. And everybody always wants to ask us about the Land Between the Lakes. Anytime we do any kind of interview, that is the main topic that people really want to get into and talk to us about. I think that's one of the things that kind of put us on the map with a lot of people. That was one of the first things, the werewolf experiments was one of the first things that a lot of people who are now, avid watchers of the channel, that was one of the first things that they really saw of ours and really got into the work that we do. So that's always kind of sort of a milestone. The work that we've done in the LBL has always been kind of a milestone for what we've done here.
Catman emoji win. Jesse will have that done.
I don't have my pen. I will have to make it.
There's not a pen with all the. We podcast from my equipment room, so there are wires and chargers and lights and cameras and tripods.
I have 2 notebooks and no pen.
Crossbows, knives, all this giant batteries. Big flashlights.
I have a casket key over here.
All of that just piled up around us, but no freaking pen.
My kingdom for a pen. Yeah, I'll see what I can do. I will do a naked Catman emoji. He's part of the lore now.
He is part of the lore now. So, but.
Oh, I'm also wearing, guys. We're doing our outfit today.
Whoops, let me get my.
Hold on. I have my werewolf tank top on. Here.
Whoa.
I like that. Okay. Got my werewolf tank top on, my Land Between the Legs hat. I thought I'd go with the whole look here. And the completely frizzy hair from this crazy rainstorm we've been getting today.
And there's a question that ties into the LBL here that I had starred a moment ago. Guys, we have literally no agenda or schedule for tonight's show. We're just going to bounce around. My big thing was, again, it's just that during the show with Aaron, man, we had such a great turnout. Like Aaron mentioned, that was the biggest live stream like type interview like that Small Town Monsters has ever had. Yeah. So there were so many questions in the chat that we just couldn't get to. Part of the reason is because when Aaron and I get around each other, we just start babbling at each other because I just have such joy in his company, even if it's virtually just talking to him. Aaron's just, and we when we got off the live stream, we probably stayed on for like another 45 minutes just shooting.
See, you guys could have probably gone for 3 hours.
We could do if Aaron and I did a show together weekly, or me or I still think Heather Mosier and I would put out we would find it extremely exciting. Everybody else probably bored with the folklore, but Hill Excursions had asked, what caliber do you use in the field for your protection and what weapons do you prefer personally? We actually went to 10 millimeter pistols after that when we got back from that first LBL investigation. We used to just carry like 9 millimeters with us. And after we saw that thing on thermal, we came back and we literally came back and unpacked them within like a day or two. We had gone to Palmetto State and gotten a 10 millimeter. So, and then added another one to that and then added more of that after that. But
there's definitely something to the phrase of use enough gun.
Yeah, exactly. You know? So, all right, see what else we got here. But Dark Side, LBL, how do people get away with carrying? It's not allowed. It's not allowed. There's some scuttlebutt on the internet that they may have unofficially loosened that rule.
But it's federal property. It's a national recreation area. So if you commit a crime there, it's considered a federal crime.
And you go in federal prison.
Yeah.
So
especially a firearms related crime.
So I don't know if that's true or not. And it may be, it may not be. As far as I know, all the information online right now still says that it's a federal offense to carry firearms out in the LBL, except for very, very, very limited. You have to have, like during hunting season, certain areas you can have one during the daytime, applicable caliber. It's a lot of regulations there, which is very, very odd compared to like being in a national forest, that national recreation area. Even though it is very lightly patrolled with law enforcement, if it's patrolled at all some days, it's still odd that you cannot, that you can't carry firearms in there. Even if you are licensed to carry in the states that the LBL stretches across, Tennessee and Kentucky at that point. But it is, people do it, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, what happens is that the LBL has, mostly because of us and small town monsters, got really hot topic nowadays.
Yeah.
And the authorities there know it. They know that there's lots of documentaries and YouTube things and whatnot on the LBL. And
I know that right after Dogman Terrritory came out, that Dogman Terrritory was the biggest thing that had ever been released on the LBL. After werewolf experiments, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
At that point, I know that Jody Cook did a documentary out there and got some really interesting stuff, The Deathbed Confession was on that. That was insanely compelling, and that was some good filmmaking with that as well.
Jody Cook is, out of all of the old LBL hands, when we started to get into it and we were learning what we learned about it, and we took the tact of like, we're not just going to trade campfire stories. We're going to go and we're going to investigate this like you should investigate something, you know, looking at old records, trying to get our hands on paper records and old microfiche records wherever we could, and not just trusting the information that's online. But some of the stuff we came up with matched what Jody Cook had found. Jody Cook Jody Cook of the North American Dogman Project did a very nice job researching the LBL from like an investigative standpoint. So
he was one of the first people. I don't know if all of you know this yet. We'll probably get into this later on, or if this spurs on some more questions or discussion in this. He was one of the first people that went to the alleged massacre site that is around those bunkers and everything on that north end, that is near that Mount Pleasant Cemetery. And he was one of the first people to say, I don't think it happened right here.
Mm-hmm.
He speculated that it actually happened down below the water. And if you go there on the ground, and we've taken you guys there so many times in our videos and our live streams from that location, when you go down to the water's edge, it makes more sense for that area. Yes, we think it's somewhere else on the peninsula, entirely many, many miles away. But if you go in there and look at it and you actually lay eyes on it, you're like, okay, this doesn't make any sense for the story. Jody Cook was one of the first people who actually went down there and said, I think it was more likely that it didn't happen up here where the bunkers are and where everybody thinks it happened, that it may have happened. He speculated that it may have happened down at the water's edge.
Yep. Frank Williams said, I pushed notify me. If you are not getting notifications on YouTube, turn your notifications off. And then turn best help desk advice ever.
Turn it off and turn it back on.
Turn them off and then turn them back on again. Also, check to make sure you're still subscribed. We are this shy from 35,000 subscribers, which is, for a couple of weirdos like us that don't really do the usual YouTube shenanigans, that ain't too shabby.
Yes.
But a lot of people have been unsubscribed, and it's not anything directed against us. It's not a conspiracy. They're not trying to silence anything. It's just YouTube's a big platform and weird things happen. Yeah. So they've done some.
We discovered we were subscribed to a bunch of channels we have never watched before.
And unsubscribed from channels that we normally do watch. So if you're watching this right now, maybe make sure you're still subscribed. We'd like to hit that.
And also, if you want to help us hit that goal, you can share the channel. You can share this episode, but definitely share the channel on all your social medias that you can share it on, and try to get us up to that 35K mark. It feels like just not too long ago we were hitting that 30K mark.
Yeah, exactly.
It's pretty awesome, and all that's thanks to you guys being part of this community and really helping us grow this channel and grow this community itself.
Marcus Aurelius. Thank you for that, buddy. I'm glad you're here on a Monday night, Marcus. Usually Marcus's work schedule kind of keeps him from doing it. Hope maybe your schedule's changed and we can kind of get back to it. Is there a hotter spot for Dogman sightings other than the LBL? Well, it's funny because if you're going to take, well, I mean, there's a couple factors that I'll address here. A, the LBL is known for Dogman. Okay, that's just it right now. The LBL is associated with Dogman publicly, probably more than any other place in the United States right now. Now, as far as, and there's a lot of there's a lot of talk of Dogman that comes out of there. There's a lot, it's a hot spot, but here's the deal. We know of a couple of, like Texas, from southwestern Virginia down through like upstate South Carolina is extremely active.
That's where our initial reports of Dogman came from before we even set foot in the LBL. The direct reports we received were from that area that Joe just mentioned, straight down into this area. And that's really what spurred us to go there that first time. Was we heard reports outside of the LBL, because at that point, before we had gotten those reports directly, we had just heard this LBL story. We had heard some creepypasta via internet channels, but we had not gotten any direct reports at that point. So before we even went to the LBL, we had kind of a negative attitude towards it. We thought it was a joke. We were like, there's no way, this is crazy. We were at the point where we were tired of hearing about the massacre, the 82 massacre and the LBL. And it was a hot topic at that point. And everybody was kind of just trading these stories back and forth about this. And there weren't a lot of encounter stories direct encounter stories really coming out at that point. It seems like they've ramped up over the years, or people felt like they could come out and talk about their experiences more as a result of that. But at that point, it was really heavy on the 82 massacre story. And we received direct reports from the central North Carolina area, basically. And that's what really spurred us on to be like, okay, this is happening. This is all coinciding. Let's go look at the LBL and see what's going on there.
So, but Texas, Aaron Deese has the Texas Dogman Triangle, which is spread beyond the confines of that original triangle. This area through here, Michigan is historically ranked with it. We don't really hear a lot of modern stuff from Michigan. I'm sure it goes on, but what you have to also realize too is that the Dogman topics, it's sensational, it's sexy, it's much more
I hate
dramatic.
when they call these things sexy.
They're much more dramatic than Bigfoot. So as a result of that, you have to have a pretty good filter on for what's real and what's not real. There are people out there that are pretty well known for their encounters that did it basically just to try to spawn a YouTube career and make money. You know what I'm saying? That's just the long and the short of it.
That's a fool's errand.
That's a fool's errand right there. But it's still, people try. And so, it's right now you have to really you get a pretty good instinct for a real account as opposed to somebody who's just looking for maybe some attention. But it does, it's Dogman too. Like I said, as people are becoming more aware of it, I think as it levels out and that newness, because it's still a new topic for a lot of people. A lot of people are still being introduced to this topic of upright wolves running around. As that newness kind of wears off, I think you'll see it level off like Bigfoot. I still think that there are a lot of cross-contamination between Bigfoot reports and Dogman reports.
Because if you don't lay eyes on what's happening, what you're experiencing, say you hear something, anything that you don't lay eyes on what you're experiencing, you could confuse it.
Yeah. So it basically, I
always like what you say, and you can kind of go over that again. It's like you hear something in the woods, you automatically think Bigfoot. So
yeah.
We lose a lot of possible Dogman sightings, right? In the mix.
On the Bigfoot subject, you should go hook up with Todd Standing, Jesse. Come to Alberta, see a Sasquatch.
I won't be disappointed.
You will not be disappointed. But yeah, and it's like our buddy Pork Chop here heard about the Beast of Bray Road, Michigan, well before the LBL. The LBL, and you saw some of this with the conversation I had with Aaron.
Bray Road is in Wisconsin.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Beast of Bray Road's in Wisconsin and then Michigan. There's a Michigan Dogman, the Beast of Bray Road, and then the Beast of LBL, along with all the other Kentucky-centric werewolves.
Yeah.
But what's happened though is that the LBL, there's a lot of lore, Dogman lore around the LBL. Some of it is more true than other stories. And but at the same token, though, you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater just because some of it's like sensational. There's a core truth of something going on there, and there's a core truth that area. It's weird, and Aaron and I talked about this. Is that as the topic's gotten more popular, it also becomes a popular topic to like lazily debunk. Well, I have done my research, and there's nothing going on there. I beg to differ, you know. And yeah, you can find local residents around there that are just like, oh, that's silly. There's no Beast of LBL. But you can find residents around that area who will tell you that there's weird things going on. And that's pretty much any geographic area that is known for like high strangeness or anything like that at all. You're going to have people that have blinders on and detractors and think that there's none of that going on there because they just refuse to believe in the possibility of any of these topics. But then you also will have people that go, no, what's going on here? And it's not like those stories of where was that place that they told us to go to? Taylor, Mississippi. When people were
my God, we were at Wild and Weird Con doing a live show from the lobby of the lodge in Logan, West Virginia. And we were doing our Monday show. And we started talking about Taylor, Mississippi. And it turned into a big hubbub.
It was crazy. People were telling us that hordes of dogmen run the streets in Taylor, Mississippi. We would be murdered if we tried to go. We would just get butchered in the streets. And then they were telling us that, well, you know, law enforcement just scoops up anybody from out of state.
If you come into the town at all,
they just scoop you up to kind of keep the lid on. And I'm going, we looked into it a little bit and we're like, well, there's like a big wedding chapel that people from out of state.
There's a venue, like a large.
People from out of state come to all the time that aren't getting arrested. So we spawned up. It was around the time of the Area 51 raid. They can't stop us all. And we were going to rush the borders of Taylor, Mississippi to look for the dogmen with everybody from the internet. And the thing is they can't arrest us all. And
some people got so mad.
And I'm just going, you can like pick a business in Taylor, Mississippi and look at the Google reviews. And it's people from out of town. I was there on vacation, or I was there visiting a relative, and I ate there, and it was so great. Well, those are planted by the government to make you think that it's.
What if dogmen are writing the reviews
on the computer?
Because they do have human-esque hands, you know,
just to draw you in.
Yeah, they're like great wedding venue.
They run.
No dogmen will eat bride. I do believe that Oxford, Mississippi is north of Taylor. That's a major city.
Shade Viking, I got a fever, and the only cure is more naked Catman, baby. And he has the naked Catman icon as his YouTube avatar.
Shade has just gone into naked
deep,
Catman.
And he's going in deep on
with both feet there.
All right.
I got some stuff marked in our start. If you want to hit that, I've been trying to. This chat has gone bananas as usual. So I'm rolling through.
We'll go through and see what we got here. But it is but like I said, the LBL is there's something going on there. We have had weird experiences there. We have had weird experiences that we don't think relate to Dogman in the slightest there. Now, does that mean that every single visitor there has something happen? No, there's like over 1 million people a year that go to the Land Between the Lakes recreationally. They're not running around the woods on foot in the middle of the night, you know, looking for stuff. They stay in some centrally located areas, you know, and just like the Uwaris. We were in the Uwaris this weekend, the Uwari National Forest, which has the most consistent, and I hesitate to call them Bigfoot vocalizations because you don't see what made the vocalizations, but it's not dogs, not coyotes, not birds. Let's just call them Bigfoot vocalizations. The most consistent Bigfoot vocalizations of anywhere we've ever been at. But the Uwari is a very popular destination. But you start to look at what are people doing when they go there? Well, you know, overlanding, off-roading, that sort of stuff's extremely popular there. And now if I was inhabiting those woods and I wanted to stay away from off-roaders or people that are doing like overlanding and like, jacked up trucks, I'd just stay away from a road. It'd be really easy,
Well, you're only allowed to take off-road vehicles in the designated off-road trails. So in terms of four-wheelers or the side-by-sides or anything like that, if it is not a licensed vehicle with a tag and everything, licensed registered vehicle, all of that, you can't drive it on the gravel roads. You can't drive it anywhere else. So most of these people that do the overlanding, the off-roading, anything like that, you have to take your vehicle on a trailer into the designated trails, offload it, and then go on the trails there. It's also done by permitting. So it's not like it's completely overwhelmed with these people doing this. It does get busy, but they've actually gotten a bit of a control on it since it got way too busy. The roads were being blocked. So now they issue permits. And I think there's a limit on the permits they will issue on any given day or weekend. So that's a very isolated activity. It's isolated to certain areas.
And it's easy to avoid.
Yes, very easy.
So same thing with the LBL. There's 1 million people there every year. First off, they're not all coming at once. And they're not like linking hands and walking from one end of the peninsula to the other, looking for dogs.
It's like hands across the world, LBL.
But if you look at the number of people that report stuff from the LBL, and World of Whiskey, thank you for that. Are y'all interested in firsthand LBL stories and pictures? Yes, very much so.
Yes, absolutely. And I have a photo to share that somebody sent me last night. I'll share it in a little bit when you guys are ready, but it is a print. And this print is near an area where Joe and I had a strange experience where we heard some strange vocalizations, but I'll share that with you guys in a little bit whenever you're ready, but carry on. But absolutely, yes.
But it's an area that has like a lot of strange stuff happen. And we have personally documented strange stuff in the LBL. And I think that to me, the LBL is a double-edged sword. There's so much talk about the LBL and there's so many campfire stories about the LBL. And there's just so much and those stories have a tendency to grow and grow and grow and morph over time and become more extreme. But we've also gone there and we have recorded very large straight up canine prints that are on the extreme large size of what you would expect a dog to have. We also found a footprint that looked kind of Bigfoot-like, but appeared to have talons at the end of the toes. It was the craziest thing. And we found that near those bunkers that are associated with the 82. We found those as that like tornado was moving in on us that night. We had to get out. We found that. We have got that thermal image. We have caught some weird audio down there. We have found the ripped up tents and the weird claw marks on the trees and everything like that are not bare. And the only other option is if they're not bare, then someone is in there making marks that appear to be with a clawed 5-finger hand.
And one of those marks that we found was next to that tent that was ripped up. And the location of that tent was not easy to find. We just happened to find it. It's not on a known trail. It's not on a trail at all. It's way back in the woods. It's in a very remote area. It's not somewhere that people go to or would even have the desire to go to because it's kind of out of the way. It's a little difficult to get to. So if somebody was hoaxing, say that initial ripped up tent that we found was somebody trying to plant something, they'd never know when we're going. We don't tell anybody when we're going to the LBL until we're already there for a couple of days. And then we may post something about it. But when we did the werewolf experiments, we didn't do that. We didn't post. We didn't announce anything. We just went out there and we started working. We were out there for a very long time. Just day after day after day. I think we did a 10-day stretch on that one. And nobody knew we were out there. Nobody knew what we were doing. And this is werewolf experiments. So this is before going out to the LBL and doing Dogman investigations and research was such a popular thing to do as it was directly after Dogman Terrritory came out. Yep. Right after Dogman Terrritory came out, you had all of these people organizing these get-togethers, these meet and greets, these campouts, and they were having tons of people come out there. And it was sort of like a Hollywood map of the stars driving through to show them the massacre site and all this stuff. So this was prior to that. So if someone was trying to hoax, who are you hoaxing for? There was nobody else out there. There was nobody going out there, and there was no knowledge of this going on out there.
Tom O'Toole, thank you very, very much for that, my friend. So
Tom O'Toole,
thank you. Thank you. You made our night there, my friend. Thank you. A million thank yous for you, sir. So it's the
Tom O'Toole sounds like the name of somebody who is, kind of on the roadside, and he's going to warn you. He's like warning you of.
It sounds like a character from like a classic, Appalachian folklore.
Yeah. He's like strumming a guitar, and he's about to warn you.
He's
about
warning
something
you
bad
about not going on the crossroad after midnight. So, thank you, Tom. But it's such a, where I was going to with this is that all of the talk about it's a double-edged sword, because these stories can grow and these stories can be very easily told. But at the same token, sometimes they get so sensational that people have a tendency to do what I mentioned earlier, throw the baby out with the bathwater. That's a crazy story. All the LBL is a bunch of BS. Oh, the LBL is a bunch of BS. There's too many people there. If you go to some of the structured campgrounds, they're busy. The horse camp that's there is busy. There's an off-roading section. It's busy.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when the sun goes down, there's really not a lot of people around there. There's an occasional car on the road going up and down the trace, but we were shocked when we went down there because the LBL is not the most remote place we've ever investigated. You can go across especially on the north or south side and get a burger, get a pizza, takes you a while to get there, but there's a big road running down the middle of it. You'll be out in the middle of nowhere in the woods and you come across a power line cut, but especially when the sun goes down, it's a different story. It's very, 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 you feel very isolated and alone out there. It's got a real feel to it. And I'm a firm believer in the fact that all of this stuff, I don't care what it is, feeds off attention somehow. Do you know what I'm saying? It doesn't want a lot of people looking at it at any given time, but it wants something from us. It wants some sort of attention, some sort of energy. And there's a lot of people thinking about the LBL, talking about the LBL. And I think that does impact the activity that's there, because there's real activity there. There's sensationalism, just like there is with anything else in this topic. And the 82 massacre story, that's a good story, man. If you like scary stories and all that, it's a good story. Did something happen there in 82? A lot of us think so. A lot of us think something happened in 82. A lot of people that are involved in this stuff think that, well, maybe if that RV story didn't happen the way that is commonly accepted, there's still something that happened out there that was the genesis for that story.
Yeah.
And, Elijah Henderson with the Cryptid Studies Institute, he's done a really good job of going out and kind of looking through those. Our buddy Mike Smith, who was also in the LBL documentary with us, he lives in that area. He remembers hearing something in the early 80s. I don't remember the exact dates. I don't want to quote him on it, but a lot of people remember hearing stuff that happened in the LBL around that time. PCX putting a thing, it was buried in Water Valley, Mississippi near Oxford. Do you know what that's in reference to?
I do not.
PCX, elaborate, my friend. So it's very, very odd. And Julie Bug wants to know, how many reports do we still get reports? We get more reports from the area surrounding the LBL than we do actually in the confines of the LBL itself. And I'm not saying that the activity is lessened on the peninsula. Would you agree with that? I just think that again, you got to go there. And you have to realize that a lot of the research that goes on the LBL just consists of sitting around a campfire and exchanging stories and everything like that, That's why I thought the werewolf experiments were so cool that we did. And we didn't catch a Dogman with it, but some of the stuff before then to kind of bait the Dogman in. I mean, people tried dog food, stuff like that. At least we were out there trying some different stuff, some wolf lore, Sasquatch pheromone chips, things like that to try to see if we could entice anything to come in. But I think what's out there, and I think the Dogman topic in general is not a entity that's driven by instincts or even hunger. I think it's an entity that has a real firm grasp of what's going on, no matter the situation. and it is borderline prescient, has a borderline ability to kind of like anticipate what you're going to do. And when it shows itself, I don't think people stumble across Dogman unaware. The closest thing that you would maybe have for that is there's a common trope in Dogman lore.
Yeah.
Sitting on the side of the road eating roadkill. Yeah. And people see it.
That I think the first instance I heard that from was Linda Godfrey.
Linda Godfrey. But there's people still to this day. I had a young lady a couple of months ago who does not know me through our work with Hellbent Holler, discover what we did with Hellbent Holler, and then she said she wanted to tell me a story about how down near the Texas-Mexico border, they saw a skinwalker. And so she takes me through the skinwalker account. And the skinwalker account consists of them seeing a wolf-like creature on the side of the road eating roadkill. And that's when I went, have you ever heard of Dogman before? No, but she's very familiar with that neck of the woods with the skinwalker traditions. And that's what she associated it with. And I'm going, well, you know, and a lot of Dogman reports and kind of explained werewolves, basically a werewolf. Okay, I got it. Even those seem like they would hear the car coming and duck off the road real quick. Yeah. Even that seems like it's like they're positioning themselves to be seen. So
almost as if there's something to be gained from that attention or being seen. But what is the end game here? You know,
fear, possibly
to stoke fear. Like there is some sort of like a nourishment in someone's fear.
Yeah. Mr. Dog, imagine you had seen a Dogman instead of a Bigfoot. Do you think your story might have been different? I don't want to sugarcoat what I saw that night because like I was like almost like pissing in my sleeping bag at that point. And it's so weird because I mentioned this in the interview. I don't really remember. I got a terrible memory for like basic stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? You know, I can rattle through the settings that we need on all these cameras that I'm looking at right now and everything like that. But like, if you asked me what my second grade teacher's name was, I freaking don't remember. That night, though, I remember so much about that. Just that split second. I was in a red sleeping bag, and it wasn't even really the type of sleeping bag I should have had to be sleeping outdoors like that. It's just what I had. It had cowboy and Indian like cloth motif on the inside, and I remember just laying there looking at this thing, and it was not pleasant. It was not a pleasant experience. It was very terrifying. The description that I always give, like the them and us Neanderthals, was pretty horrifying. And when I say with like a little bit of Harry and the Henderson in, like a longer head, you know, but like still cone shaped, it was very. I did not get like a warm and fuzzy off of it. Now, of course, that might have been because I was a kid. I don't know. You know, anything unknown is frightening, but I didn't get the feeling that, oh, this is a forest protector here to watch out for me and make sure that I have a safe night in the woods. Didn't get that at all. Dogman, however, if I had had a Dogman sighting at that age, I don't know. Maybe it would have taken me the opposite direction. Maybe I never wanted to step foot in the woods again as long as I lived. I don't know. Maybe I would have gotten even more obsessed than I am right now. And I would have gone the Renee DeHindren route, living in a shack somewhere, you know, just, you know, living like, you know, just basically like in poverty, just trying to hunt the Dogman. So
it seems like compared to Bigfoot sightings, the Dogman sightings are way more aggressive and frightening and just absolutely like mortally terrifying.
And it's weird because people always go, well, people are rarely attacked. And I'm going, or they're attacked and they don't come back to tell the tale.
Right.
So you can't really, that's not a really good barometer for the violence of some. Maybe it's just that they're extremely thorough in that violence. And there's only occasional people who are physically attacked, like Martin Groves, that make it back to tell the tale.
Right.
And, you know, a lot of times it seems like what they do is designed just to frighten people. But it's maybe sometimes they decide that that's not enough and they ramp it up a notch and there's nobody back to to tell the story. It's just another missing person flyer and somebody's face on the back of a milk carton. So
Amethyst the Scientist, thank you so much for that super sticker right there.
Thank you. We greatly appreciate it. So
a little aside about what you were saying, say somebody was missing and so they were attacked by one of these things, killed by one of these things, and their remains were found. Something that stuck out to me that MK Ultra said was that if you die in the woods and then you are eaten by animals, or if you're killed by animals, they just deem it as natural causes because they just assume that the scavengers had gotten to you.
They assume that all that damage to your bones and the bones have been scattered and damaged by small animals scattering your remains afterwards. So just kind of going through the chat here real quick.
Hans Veraccio says, it's also interesting all these stories where the Dogman seems to get off on scaring folks. Again, thank you so much, Amethyst the Scientist, for that, by the way.
But, well, again, that goes back to there's a precedent for that. Western Europe, a lot of cultures have what they call black dog phenomenon, large supernatural black hounds, hellhounds, spectral hounds, just the Bargus, there's like a whole variety of them. It seems like every county in the United Kingdom has their own individual folklore, their own local legend of like a large black hound. And the majority of those sightings also are generally very frightening. Now, but here's the deal. They're also known to try to lure or drive travelers off the path at night. And then those people are never seen again. So yeah, I guess you could assume that there's some violence breaks out on that. But for the most part, sometimes they're harbingers of doom, they're bad omens, but a lot of times it just seems like they just wanted to scare whoever witnessed them. And that's exactly what Dogman does in modern times. Just
poking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we've seen possibly just an evolution of what those entities do, and maybe what we're experiencing with Dogman is responsible for some of the folklore and legends of like yesteryear at this point. So
yeah. Michael Tovar has one here that's good to think about. Jesse and Joe, have you ever heard stories of different shape / size of Dogman in different parts of regions like we hear about Sasquatch? I don't know if our data set for Dogman is as, that's complete. What it is our data set for Dogman sightings is not as large as our data set for Sasquatch sightings. You've had so many Sasquatch sightings with so many descriptive Sasquatch sightings, long periods of time where people are looking at these things for 5 minutes, where they can get this picture of what they're looking at. A lot of times these Dogman sightings are so brief, but you also don't have the vast number of sightings like you do with the Sasquatch that you can, kind of develop that pattern. Does the Dogman of Michigan look different from the Dogman of Texas? You don't really have those physical descriptions enough to really develop a pattern between those two. Yeah. Correct?
Yeah. Reverend PC, we're going to bounce back and forth on this, but Reverend PC says, I think your story of what you saw as a scout was real and not a dream, just my opinion. But I think it wanted you and only you to see it for a reason. So for those of you who didn't see the interview, just so you're kind of in with this, and we're not really going to talk about it too much, but...
And I got to add that to the description. I'm going to add that to the description of the video now while you're talking.
I was inducted into a thing called the Order of the Arrow when I was in Boy Scouts. And part of that induction is you go off for the weekend. You have to do like hard manual labor. They don't really feed you, you have to take a vow of silence. And part of it is that you have to sleep out under the stars. Now, we would do a lot of tent camping, but you don't really just plop down a sleeping bag when you're that age and just sleep in the woods. But part of the induction ceremony and part of what they do is you have to sleep exactly where they place you at. And the scout leaders that are taking you out like to make it as difficult as possible. So they try to put you on rocks, tree roots, stuff like that. They put you in very uncomfortable places to sleep as just part of, they're having fun with the people that are there to get inducted in. So I saw something like in the middle of the night looking at me from behind a tree, doing classic tree peeking behavior. And I'm not going to go all through that over time, but the next day, you remember you're supposed to not speak over the entire weekend. Well, the leader that they put us with was a fairly young guy, and he was hearing impaired. So for kids, of course, we chatted up every time his back was turned, And I'm kind of cautious. Like, anybody see anything like last night? And nobody said they saw anything. So I didn't push it too much because, I'm a kid. I'm in like an unfamiliar, stressful, I mean, you're safe, with the induction portion of it at least, but to a kid, it's a huge deal. So I didn't really talk about it, but I kept going. I'm going, did I dream that? Did somebody hoax me? I mean, to be honest with you, it didn't feel like a dream at the time. I was kind of leaning on, I kind of opened the possibility up to being a dream, like kind of later on, down the road. But the time I'm thinking somebody maybe hoaxed me. And I'm figuring, well, they wouldn't spend all that time and money on this costume just to hoax one kid, and nobody in my area, the group I was with reported seeing anything. And I remember like the last day when you're through with all of this, they feed you like a big steak dinner and you're in a big hall together. Bam, you got to the weekend, you're now a member of this order. And I remember sitting there eating, kind of just expecting, and people are making like little speeches and stuff like that. The kids are grubbing down. You haven't eaten over the weekend hardly. And I kept expecting them to bring out somebody in the suit and have a good laugh at everybody. And then I was figuring like maybe other people were there and they were just didn't want to get mocked or ridiculed and they didn't want to say anything. And that they were going to trot the suit out. And they never did. They never brought a suit out. They never brought anybody out to go, oh, you dumbass kids.
You never got your
no.
Phoenix Lights press conference
Yeah,
moment.
I didn't get that. So it's, I don't know. And they didn't, I can't remember if I even said that when they were doing when I was doing the interview with Alex, but that was like a big thing to it. I think I did mention it. I just don't think he included it. But the fact that I just remember sitting there going, all right, meal's almost over. When are they going to bring this dude in the costume out and show us how they pranked a bunch of us and we never saw it. So I don't know. Lady Wolf had said people asked for some knife checks.
Yeah, I marked a bunch of them. I was like, okay, we got to do these knife checks.
I'm carrying a cold steel serrated Vaquero. It's got serrations on it. That is not a bushcraft knife, as you can tell. It is something for self-defense. I'll sometimes carry, if I'm carrying a bushcraft boulder, I'll sometimes carry this as well, just to kind of have even if you're armed, sometimes just having a big old chunk of sharp steel on you is pretty comforting out in the woods. So
you don't have to put that away yet because they have to see this comparison. I like when we have matching knives, but we have a his and her big and tiny version. This is my cold steel Voyager, and it's the tiny version of that bad boy right there. It's the exact knife, but just tiny. I love when we have these like little matching knives like that, but that's perfect for my little hands. And it's just the same knife, but tiny, shrunken down. Yeah, I saw everybody's like, Jeff Matlow wanted knife check within the first 10 minutes. It's like early knife check.
Grizz talks about the wog, which is a wolf-like creature in Native American lore in these parts. It protects Notarock, the Creek's Gate to Hell.
Oh, geez, this is William Kennedy.
Oh, what is William? Thank you for that, buddy. So,
thank you, Grizz. The Order of the Dark Triad induction.
Like they're out there doing experiments on me.
Jesus.
So, this is a good one. Steve Bolton. I wonder if the black dog phenomenon also explains the supernatural elements sometimes surrounding Bigfoot sightings. Why would demons limit themselves to copying dogs? I don't know if the black dog phenomenon could be unpleasant and malicious and evil, but maybe not demonic. I don't know. I don't know. There's something definitely going on with some of these, a large portion of Sasquatch encounters and sightings that aren't just biological creatures that are just really good at staying hidden. And it's weird. It's so many people have different interpretations of what the Sasquatch phenomenon is. Some of them have a real guardians of the forest brother thing. And then other people are going, wish they just quit killing my livestock,
Yeah.
Throwing rocks at my house, trying to take my granddaughter when she's trying to go to the car. So I think that there's great variations in what that phenomenon is capable of doing when it interacts with people. So Mr. Blueberry had asked if I'd ever looked at different Bigfoot costumes to see if any of them looked like that. Well, back in the day, you would be limited on costumes unless you were in a good-sized town or small city that at least that had a professional like costume shop. And they're just going to look like the same Bigfoot costumes that you see nowadays. This was dark. The eyes were alive, man. The eyes. When I said glassy in the Alex interview, I meant they were reflective. They didn't look flat and lifeless.
Yeah.
They had an animated quality. They were reflecting two little points of light. I remember, which was the moon, I'm assuming. But it's I don't know. Like I said, yeah, I've never seen anything my entire life and gone, that's what I saw. You know.
Goshawk says, okay.
I'm sorry. I mean, I was hiding his comments.
There we go. Goshawk says, Jesse, Joe, you should try doing LBL investigations from a boat. I think now we are going to go back to the LBL. We're not going to announce it, but we are going to go back to the LBL. I think we were pretty burned out for a bit on the LBL, but we have decided we are going to go back at some point in time. But I'd love to maybe hook up with Mike Smith and go out on a boat and go to some of these areas that are a little less accessible on foot and actually go to them on boat and maybe get a better or a different perspective.
Well, if we did that, I'd want the boat to drop us off.
Yeah.
And go into the woods and then maybe come back and get us. Maybe watch from the water with like a thermal or something like that to see if we.
I thought you were going to say watch from the water as we just wave and disappear.
PCX's early comment was on the witch. On the witch. And the live stream didn't crash. All right, good deal. So that's a good thing. So all right, let's see what else we got.
I think I'm almost caught up on the chat.
I'm nowhere near caught up. So but we, it's the Dogman topic in general. Dogman topic in general, so it's a difficult topic to explore, and for a couple of reasons. There's not as much activity as there is with other stuff with it. There's just not as much. I mean, really good, compelling, semi-verifiable. And when I say semi-verifiable, I'm not saying that they have like video evidence, but that the people are even who they claim to be. We get a lot of like,
and the details of their story are provable. Even minute details are provable. And I think that's a huge problem is how do we separate fact from fiction when it comes to
and our thing is generally if you're proven untrue in a small detail of the story, we can't trust the rest of it. So that, and then let's just be honest, man, the Dogman community is off the rails, man.
Bananas.
It is bananas.
I love the David Palladius. There's one thing I'll tell you about the Bigfoot community. It's full of psychos.
It is full of psychos. Shade being naked Catman. I fight with Dogman a lot. Thank you, buddy. So
I have this photo I wanted to share that.
But let me finish this real quick.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry.
We know other researchers who have private interest in the Dogman topic and the LB, because the LBL is like getting magnified, the craziness, everything like that. But they are interested in it, but they don't want to publicly investigate it because they don't want to deal with the baggage, the people baggage that comes along with it.
Yeah.
You've got people who have been tied to it for years and it's a huge part of their personal folklore. And then they don't want other people getting in there because it takes the attention off of them.
Yeah.
You have people that people who are willing to talk about this stuff publicly fall into two camps. People that are very strong-willed and have a really good sense of self-identity, and they don't really care what people think about them, and they'll talk about what they want to. Thank you. And then people that are just flat out freaking crazy. And so it's difficult from that end to sometimes look into it. And for those of you that have been along on the ride for us, you've seen, you get people to the point where if you were saying that there might be different possibilities out there, they're ready to come like burn your house down, something like that. So it's crazy. So, all right, go ahead. What you got there? I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's fine.
I am
whatever
sorry.
You want to do.
Whatever you want to do.
I'm here for you. I'm here for you, my man.
Right, let's do
it. So Rhonda Hargrove Howard sent me this photograph that her daughter actually took. Let me find here. All right, here it is. Check this out.
Let me get this comment.
It's kind of interesting what you said.
Could you drop our, is it a footprint here?
Yeah.
Can you drop that overlay of Jesse and Joe?
Yes, sir. So this photo was taken by Kayla Dotson. And this was taken, let me describe the place to you, and hopefully you will remember exactly what I'm talking about. Do you remember we went down that road on that one peninsula where that bridge
Well,
is?
just to make sure, we're talking about the LBL right now. This was taken in the LBL.
Yes.
Okay, so.
Yesterday.
Oh, it was taken yesterday?
Yesterday.
Wow, okay. There's another thing that I've not had a chance to respond to the person that just happened within the past week.
Yes.
And then around the LBL. So I wonder if there's like an outburst of activity. Go on, continue. I'm sorry.
So this was taken near that closed down bridge.
Okay. Oh, really?
Do you remember that?
I do remember that. Yes.
There is a dry creek bed. It might not be dry right now because of all the rain, but it was dry when we were there last. We went out there and went to the lake's edge, and we heard one of the most frightening howls we've ever heard. Yeah. So we are familiar with that area. We've been out there before. But yeah, I think that is a very interesting print. And based on the leaves, I'm looking at it for a scale here. It looks huge. It looks absolutely huge, does it not?
Yeah. I mean, look at that.
And you can kind of see on the left side there, you can kind of see where it looks like there are like claw indentations.
Wow. Yeah. That's wild.
So thank you for sending that to me.
Let us know what you guys think about that.
Yeah, I thought that would be a cool thing to share. That's also kind of what spurred on us doing this episode is Joe got contacted with that incident that happened in the last 48 hours. And I got sent this in the last 24 hours. So, and then we have all of the stuff going on with STM releasing things about the LBL and Dogman. We don't believe in coincidences. No. When things are piling up like that, we always go with what the universe is telling us. And so we thought it was necessary to bring you guys in on kind of all this that's happening.
And like I said, what's crazy is that so many of us are so fascinated with the Dogman topic because even more than Bigfoot, it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. People are seeing and encountering something that makes even less sense than Sasquatch does. And there are so many like layers to it. And it's such an overwhelmingly negative phenomenon. But there's something about that phenomenon that attracts people that make it difficult to look into it any deeper. And I think sometimes that like high strangeness in general will sometimes set up roadblocks that are not paranormally related, just to kind of make it a little difficult to kind of look into the nature of it. And it seems like that the crazy people factor is a real good defense to keep you from really, getting embroiled in Dogman, because we've talked to people that are big names in like the cryptid and paranormal communities, and invariably, because we did some LBL stuff, the talk comes around to Dogman, and 9 times out of 10, and some of the people I'm thinking of right off the top of my head, they'll go, that's just so cool, but I don't want to get involved with those people, and I'm like, I don't blame you, man, don't blame you.
There was something that I kind of wanted to mention that I don't think I have mentioned this. I didn't mention it to Small Town Monsters during the filming of Dogman Territory. I don't think I mentioned it in any of our videos of any of our series that we've done on the LBL.
Little Easter egg here.
I just thought about this too. But this is something that while we were there, I made such a big deal about going and seeing this from the LBL. We were up high at the LBL, and I wanted to go see this. Directly across the water at the LBL is Kentucky State Penitentiary. They call it the Castle on the Cumberland, and that is where Kentucky houses its death row inmates. And it is a very harsh, very old prison, but you can stand on this hilltop and look over the water, and you can see the prison right there, and it houses the death row inmates. Some of those people are guilty of some of the most heinous crimes you can think of. There is a level of depravity and evil that lies within these people that is just unspeakable. And they're all there in this concentrated place all together. Could there be something about that evil, that level of fear and evil and just depravity that feeds into this Dogman thing? If it lives on fear, if it lives on evil, could the presence of Kentucky State Penitentiary kind of feed into that as well?
Yeah, I don't know. The LBL is a weird spot. It's a weird spot. If you go there just to go off-roading or go camping or ride horses in those areas and you stick with the touristy areas, you may not feel it, you know. But I'll tell you this, that a lot of the people that work in the LBL that are there a lot know about it. And we've told this story before, but we were in one of the touristy things there is like a recreation 1800s farm in the very middle of the LBL. And there's no, we weren't there. We were in the animal thing where the animals were. We'd seen the turkey and all that, you know.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So that is the nature station.
Nature station. So we were there and they got a little gift shop. You know what I'm saying? And we're walking around and I had a Hellbent Holler hat on like this. Now, these are not like the hats we have on our merch store. This has a removable Velcro patch.
So he goes incognito.
I'll rip it off and I won't have like a Hellbent Holler, but I didn't have it off. I had just the patch on there. And a lady working in the gift shop, this young lady goes, "Oh, what's Hellbent Holler?" And I go, "Oh," and our usual cover story is to go when we're going in to investigate and we have field investigations in front of us, we do a YouTube channel based upon Appalachian history. And we go around and look for ruins and old remnants of homesteads and everything like that, just to film them, to kind of to document, the fading glory of Appalachia or something like that. And then that way, if they know of any ruins or anything like that, which usually attract high strangeness, they'll let us know. But we don't tell them going in that we're looking for Bigfoot, looking for Dogman, because we don't want to increase the chances of somebody hoaxing us for their own amusement. So now on the way out, if we're leaving and somebody asks us, we have a run in, sometimes then we'll go, yeah, we're doing this just to kind of see if we can pick something up for next time. But we were in there and the young lady asked me about the Hellbent Holler and what it means. And we told her we look for Appalachian folklore and Appalachian history and da-da-da-da-da. And she goes, "Well, there's a lot of it here and most of it's not good." And she's like, "The bitterness," Jesse's favorite line, "the bitterness is soaked into the land here."
Yeah, that struck me. I put that in our first series. Yeah.
And she just started laying on us all of this weird paranormal stuff that she has encountered there, and other people that work there have encountered there. So a lot of the people that are there that are not there for recreational purposes will talk to you about that. Now, here's the deal. A lot of people will go, "Well, I tried to question them at the welcome center or the gift shop about Dogman, and they didn't really want to talk about it. There's a cover up." Now they're at work, man. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times they can't really just stop what they're doing.
"What do you know about Dogman, Kaylee? What do you know about Dogman?"
And they just can't stop working to talk. She just happened to have and then she went about her duties. We didn't bother her anymore about it. So, but it's definitely got some weird stuff going on there. So
Hans asks, "Are you talking about Patty's 1886 settlement?" Patty's settlement is in Grand Rivers, and they have a giant pork chop plate that is apparently good. I've never eaten, but no. He was talking about the 1850s farmstead. It's called the Old Home Place. There's a place in the LBL. It's south of the Bison enclosure, south of Golden Pond, where you can go and check out an 1850s farmstead. But he was talking about the nature station.
Yeah. So
there's a lot of really cool little attractions at the LBL.
Michael Tovar, what about the black helicopters going over the LBL? Now, there is a military base nearby, and they do helicopter training. That does happen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That happens there. And people will go, "Well, they do, the SOAR, the special operations, helicopter pilots will do training over the LBL." Now, they don't do a ton they've got a very large base where most of that training takes place at, but helicopters do cross over there for mundane stuff. And I'm sure some of the training goes on over there. Now, these guys are famed for flying at night, doing a lot of night operations. I think their designation is that like the Night Stalkers or something like that. It's like their unit name. But the thing is, though, is that you only get buzzed by them and circled by them when you're in certain areas. And those areas happen to be tied in with Dogman lore. So, I mean, if you saw the one area when we first discovered that closed down campground and we got buzzed by that helicopter that was just circling us, and we like instinctively got under a tree, and I'm like, they've got a thermal image. They got us. They see us. They know we're here. And then we came back to do a night investigation there, and there were unmarked police cars there from Tennessee and Kentucky both, right where we were going to go in at, which was very odd because it's really in a tucked away forgotten corner of the LBL where the roads are crumbling and there's no garbage from people going there. So it was just very weird timing. And then other areas like where Martin Grove's attack happened at and other spots, you will get circled and buzzed by helicopters, and you don't get that in areas where there's not a lot of reported Dogman sightings. So is it just happenstance or coincidence, or is there something that goes along with it?
Yeah.
I don't know. So see what else we got here.
They need closure on where your shirt is from. There's always a Joe. Where's Joe's shirt from?
Joe's shirt is from Black Rifle Division.
It is.
Yes.
It's Death Riding a Pale Horse.
Yep, Death Riding a Pale Horse with an AK. So, Mr. Blueberry asked if the lady had mentioned Dogman. No, she had. Well, let me put it to you like this. She didn't mention Dogman, but she mentioned flat out paranormal stuff. And she also mentioned having things thrown at her, seeing like large black figures.
She and her boyfriend.
She and her boyfriend.
Were camping at an old like homestead site. There's like an old cabin out there, and they were camping near there, and they had heard stories, but nothing too crazy, and they couldn't stay the night. They got ran out of there by some sort of paranormal.
And then she made a comment. She just goes, "Oh, everybody that works here's got a story," you know. But again, like I said, they're at work, and sometimes people that are like investigating this, they try to put on that investigative journalist hat a little too hard. Tell me about the Dogman, you know, and you're just going to put people defensively, and they're going to be like, "No, crazy person, I'm not going to tell you anything. Get away from me. This is a Wendy's. I'm not talking to you about the Dogman." But all right, let's see what else we got here. So,
somebody asked about way back up there. Go ahead.
South Force 10, what's up, buddy?
Hey, South Force.
The paranormal that me and my wife encountered there was damn heavy. That land is sour. That's also a very good descriptive term. Sour land. Yes. So, yeah. Thank you, buddy. So,
let me see if I can find the thing I was talking about earlier. I got some here. I don't know if you did this earlier while I was scrolling, but this is from way back. Michael asked, I wonder if Joe and Jessica went back to the LBL. Some stuff will be cleaned up. If you'll remember, we went to Station 16. We found all those bones. And the next time we went back, everything was completely gone. Now, you could say that little rodents and squirrels.
The weird thing was when we went back to that first tent we found, and it was the remains of that tent, something had happened to them that was extremely odd. Extremely odd. I don't know. But it did. And I'm going, if you want to cover it up, just take the damn tent. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Don't melt it. You know, so and leave melted scraps of it. It didn't look, it's just weird.
It was very bizarre. Here's another we got here from way back when. Cryptid Castleberry, my boy. Those dark black gangly things y'all have seen there are intriguing.
That's what I was alluding to earlier when I said we've seen things that I don't think are. There's nothing canine about those things.
Those are
horrifying,
and I don't know why. I don't know where to place
where you put that,
because I think there's something instinctual and old and built-in inherent that tells us inside of our bodies and minds that that's bad.
That's real bad. That's real bad. And
there's this instinct that pops off.
And I don't know where that fits in like the pantheon of like cryptids and high strangeness, because I always tell people we don't talk about it like a lot. And if you ever see us do like LBL, like interviews with other people, we don't bring it up because it muddies the waters and we don't know how to explain it. And you sound crazy talking about it, even in these topics, because quite honestly, it looks like something that's more out of like Dungeons and Dragons than out of like, a Dogman story. I don't know what the hell it is.
Yeah.
But I've seen it once. And what's so crazy is that Jesse sees one for a split second in the area where we find that first ripped up tent, when we find that old family cemetery plot, the old headstones are basically just river rocks that were put up. And she saw one of these things, and you can tell that I minimize it because I just think she's tired and her eyes are playing against whatever. And I'm like, well, there's nothing there now.
And Joe minimizing my feelings is generally.
And then later on, I see one right where we find that missing clothing. I mean, that abandoned clothing, the boots and the pants and all that, And then Jesse sees another one like later on. It's just, it's crazy. I don't know. And it's just so. What I saw moved a branch running, but it didn't follow the lay of the land. The land dipped down, and it didn't follow that. It just went straight. I don't know. I don't have an explanation but it was physical, and you can tell it's physical when you look at it. It's physical. It's bad physical. Yeah, it's like bad. It's bad physical.
And then on a subsequent journey back up there, we found the other tent, which is what's weird. So we're seeing these things near where these tents are too. That's kind of weird, right? Mm-hmm. So we found that other tent, and that one was way back in the woods, like way, way back in the woods. We find that other tent, and I'm over there. You're looking at the tent, and I just see that thing down there. Mm-hmm. I see it down in where the creek is that goes over to the lake's shore, and I saw it, and I just basically just hyperventilated. I collapsed.
Sat down, started crying.
I just started crying. I had to collapse like against the tree basically because it scared me so bad. I don't know. I don't want to see that again.
Yeah, I don't. And to be honest with you, if we started seeing those on the regular,
I'm out.
I don't know if we'd investigate the LBL anymore. As it is, that's something, and it's weird because you don't really think about it a lot until you start talking about the LBL, and you're like, I kind of blocked that out of my memory, for God's sakes, man. That was weird, dude. So, all right, let's see what else we got here. Suchi, thank you for that. If y'all are going to the conference in Gatlinburg, you should check out the Cosby area, especially the cemetery. Serious Dogman sightings reported there.
Oh. That is a good segue into, did you know that we are speaking at the Great Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Conference on July, is it 29th, 26th? I don't even know.
It's the only Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Conference. It's taking place this year.
The one, that thing.
We're going to be on stage with Dr. Jeffrey Meldrum, and I bet he is just ecstatic about it. I bet he's looking forward to it.
He doesn't even know. No. It's on the 26th. We're going to be speaking at that. We're excited about doing that. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have a lot of Hellbenders come out. So if you can swing it, come on out to Gatlinburg and hang out with your boys. And we're going to have a really good time. I think if nothing else, the presentation is going to be fun. It's going to be at 11 o'clock. So it'll be early. And then we're going to be just hanging out. We're going to be hanging out at our booth, and then we're just going to be hanging out and having a good time. That's the best part about these conferences, is that we can actually kind of hang out and just get to be with everybody in person. That's our favorite part about all that. W. Leonard Athos asks, given your great research and notoriety in this field.
Do we have notoriety in the field now? We're notorious.
Have any government officials, read MIB, ever tried to intimidate or silence you? Not for Dogman related.
We did get a visit from the FBI for
Dogman related
for some spicy T-shirts. So,
so we've not been intimidated or come down upon for our Dogman related crimes or Joe's Bigfoot hoaxing crimes.
The Bigfoot hoaxing crimes that I spent all that time in Bigfoot prison for. No, we have.
Are there Bigfoots in Bigfoot prison, or is it?
They're the guards there, actually. What's crazy?
Wow.
Yeah, and
you allow your victims to be your guards.
Mm-hmm. It's not a rough place. I had some hard time there, man. Some hard time.
And you guys thought that his experience as a child was the one thing that traumatized him. It was Bigfoot prison.
We have had some less than stellar run-ins with people in authority doing this. Now, on the flip side, we've had some awesome run-ins with people in authority doing
Like
this.
you do.
The fish and wildlife dudes up in our neck of the woods.
Yeah. So
some pretty friggin' awesome guys, man. You know what I'm saying? So there are some good, and I know people have things, they've got a hard job and they do it exceptionally well.
when we started doing Blackthorn, when we first started the Blackthorn series and going out there and really digging in, I contacted the local fish and wildlife, and I got to talk to a couple of the guys. Awesome dudes. We let them know kind of like where we were and what we were doing, making sure everything was kosher. I would love to make a little more contact with them and maybe see if I could eke out a little information about something that's going on in that area.
But it's never. We've had I had some files mysteriously disappear.
Yes, you did.
From a couple of different methods of storage that still confuses me to this day.
I remember that happening.
Yeah, and that's still something that floats in the back of my mind. And
Joe spent a lot of time working on this particular case. I mean, not a case. It was a particular file because there were multiple cases that followed this pattern, and he spent a lot of time figuring out this pattern. And he had basically a smoking gun of something is happening in this area. He mapped it out. He had all of these cases that were tied together, and it was crazy. It was bananas. We were actually going to present it as a full-length documentary, and everything he did was gone.
Yes. And I'm talking, that was like I had a lot of data in there. And I also think it's odd that sometimes I will mention things on public avenues, interviews, our own show we're doing right now, and then they'll disappear from the internet. I came across a publicly hosted chain of emails from some local government officials.
Because you blow them up. You blow up their spot.
And that chain was in regards to some of the weirdness in the LBL and some of the weirdness with the Forestry Service in managing the LBL. And that disappeared right after I mentioned it, because I had it bookmarked, and then I'm going to the bookmark and I'm going, that bookmark's not there anymore. It got taken down after I talked about it. Could be coincidence, because we're small potatoes, man. We're small potatoes. But I do think that the powers that be do keep an eye on a lot of the conversation that takes place on this stuff, and we're part of that conversation nowadays, for better or worse. So
Hans was asking, is y'all gonna be at the McMinnville Bigfoot Conference? Yes, we are going to be at the Tennessee Wildman and Cryptid Con. We are definitely going to be there. This will be our third year doing that conference. We
will be there. Now, Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Conference, it's our first time doing that. And we will probably, it is a Bigfoot conference. Every year they should have had us last year when they had Dogman, but they didn't know who we were. So
we could have talked that Dogman.
But this year, the other cryptid focus is going to be on Mothman. Mm-hmm. We're not Mothman people, you know what I'm saying? So
people ask us from time to time.
I think the Lanulo stuff's kind of cheesy, so I don't really get into it that much.
People ask us from time to time, are you going to investigate the Mothman? I'm not super interested.
I don't really care. We're big Keel fans, and even then, I don't really have any interest in Mothman.
You know what?
But so we're going to play the Smoky Mountain Conference straight Bigfoot. We're going to do probably a Bigfoot in the South or Southern Appalachian Bigfoot or something. So we'll be Bigfoot focused on that.
I'm going to have a backup presentation, though. There's going to be the buckle up presentation. Mm-hmm. You know, we're going to go from straight Bigfoot. But if somebody says something wrong to me,
or irritates us in the slightest, we'll just go.
It's the buckle up Bigfoot time.
Spite drives all of us.
Spite squad.
Spite drives all of us. So
we're going to get uninvited to this just because we're making these jokes.
We'll probably just get the emails probably waiting in the folder right now.
We're making jokes.
Turtle get asked. This is switching gears. This is the Blackthorn, and you guys will see this as the Blackthorn stuff comes out. Members have seen it because we did a live stream from there. We were in the Blackthorn area, of which 2 videos have been out at this point, and we found a cleared off area on a hilltop that was odd. And it was being
heavily guarded by an American woodcock.
Yes, the American woodcock, which our buddy Goshawk identified for us. And we did a live stream, and hearing stuff, and we kind of start exploring around that little clearing, and we find, what was the car? You remember what the car was? Somebody in the chat will remember what it was. Just rusting there in the woods. And then we start finding all
Fairlane.
Ford Fairlane?
I just had an autistic moment. I'm so sorry.
Fairlane. Just a Ford Fairlane rusting in the woods there. And then we start to find all of these women's shoes. And then we did find the remains of like a structure that looked like it was a garage, because that area used to be populated. A lot of parallels between it and the land between the lakes. And obviously a woman lived there, and she had a lot of shoes, but something had dug the shoes out
of the like rubble. And
there were just women's shoes like on top of like leaves. A very weird thing to find middle of the night when you're miles and miles and miles away from civilization, and you're already in an area that has you kind of freaked out a bit. So
that was the night we discovered the Bigfoot fetishist, you know?
All right, let's see what else we got here.
We're about ready to wrap her up.
Yeah, we're wrapping here in a minute.
My family is in town visiting, so I'm gonna spend a little time with my
Hellbent Holler field producer, MK Ultra field producer extraordinaire. You guys were just in a cemetery with a Mothman sighting. You could say you investigated a Mothman site and made some coffee. So,
case is closed.
Case is closed. Done. Bring on the next cryptid. You're done with Mothman. All right, let's see what else we got here.
Ronna Howard has a good point here. Just want to say that my great-grandparents and great-great-grandparents are buried in the LBL. Everyone, please respect the cemeteries. I cannot drive that home enough. Please respect the cemeteries. If you go out there or anywhere else doing any kind of research, please respect the cemeteries.
That's kind of the point where I will apologize.
We find garbage. We find toilet paper.
And human
in these cemeteries. If you do that, you deserve to be in that third ring of hell. So,
but yeah, I mean, we were at that cemetery that MK was just talking about. I find myself apologizing as I'm walking through it in case I'm walking over a grave that maybe the headstone has disappeared off of. So yeah, please do. People used to live there. And that's the other thing too. When you get people that are like, I questioned these people around the LBL about the Dogman and they're all in on the cover up. No, for a lot of people, the LBL is still a sensitive subject because they lost family land. They weren't, and I don't care if they were compensated properly or not, it was still their family's land. And every time we talk about that, somebody in the comment section will be like, well, it was the indigenous people's land first. Yes, and then it was other indigenous people's lands before that, and other people's indigenous land before that. The land has changed hands many times over, and every time it was taken by force, it sucked. Yeah. Okay, it's just this is the most recent time, and at least when the land was taken by force by another party, they would use the land, not like the government did with the LBL, where people just throw toilets in it, you know, and it just rots. But yeah, it's a sensitive subject with a lot of the people around there, and a lot of the people around there don't want the land that was, they had land that was in their family for multiple generations, places they'd be living at right now. And quite honestly, there were a lot of pretty sizable plots of land in there. And you know how expensive land is right now. A lot of these families, if they still had that, would be pretty freaking well off. Okay. The pittance that they got for that land back in the day is long gone. But that land, if they still owned it, would be worth quite a bit of money. So excuse them if they don't want to talk about Dogman with some weirdo with an Indiana Jones hat from, like, you know, from outside who just wants to go there and make a YouTube video.
I do want to say breaking news.
We
have a power struggle for the leadership of Banana Town.
Ooh, hold on. It's Nut Slap and who?
Nut Slap is here. Seems like there's going to be some sort of some issues here.
Nut Slap's not above targeted political assassination. So yeah.
It's true.
Anyone trying to claim power in Banana Town will be sent straight to the dungeon with no dinner. Oof.
Oh, Lord.
I love this chat. I love it. Monday nights are probably my favorite. It is my favorite night of the week. I mean, period. But I love it. I just absolutely love it. That's all right.
I'm trying to catch up right now.
We're
before
catching
we get
through.
going.
Just see what
we're getting off the rails.
Have
Jeez, William Kennedy.
William Kennedy, man.
William Kennedy also has this little nugget.
172 days for Halloween. All right, man.
All right, get started on your Hellbent Halloween plans.
You know somebody's gonna go with us one of these years.
I'm talking about what are we gonna do to top Ghosts of Appalachia and the Devil's
I don't think I
Graveyard.
want to top Ghosts of Appalachia.
You know, we've not been back.
We've not been back there since then. We
have not been back to the site of Ghosts of Appalachia or Devil's Graveyard since our Hellbent Halloween.
People
special.
will go, you all are fearless. And I'll be like, oh no, we are packed full of fear,
Oh, no.
sir. No, we are terrified of some of these things. Sir.
Aggressive, angry person who insults Joe makes him bleed and is a
nose
black shadow figure. Oh, and then the kin. And then the devil at the Devil's Graveyard. That was scary.
Mm-hmm.
We really, I felt like we were Icarus flying too close to the sun with our last Halloween special. Should we top it this year? Let us know in the chat.
Yep. So,
all right, we're going to wrap it up. It is past time. We're gonna eat something. I'm gonna hang out with my family, my mom, my dad, my granny. They're here hanging out with us.
Check and make sure you're still subscribed, though, guys. We are a mere 29 subscribers away from hitting 35,000. 35,000. 39,000 is kind of a weird number, but I don't know. It seems like a milestone to me. I don't know. Yeah, we'll see.
Every day's a milestone.
Or don't subscribe. We don't really care.
Stop.
You know what I'm saying? So anyway.
Okay. Good talk, everybody.
Yeah, good talk tonight. Good talk. Good talk. Good talk.
We want to thank you guys for joining us for this ruckus of a Hellbent Holler.
So what do we got coming up, Jesse? We have got.
What was that?
What do we got coming up? We've got like another Blackthorn. We still have a ton of Blackthorn footage to parse out to you all. We have a ton of it. We have an absolute ton of it. The only real things we got coming up in addition to our own stuff is like Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Conference and the Tennessee Wildman Conference.
Yep.
And I don't know what we're doing after that as far as conference type things.
Probably not
for like a while. You know what I'm saying?
But we do have a special treat that we are developing.
What is this? Oh, do have a special treat that we will talk to you about later. Let's leave on a cliffhanger, shall we?
That you guys are going to lose your minds over, but it'll be something of a Hellbent hootenanny.
Oh, a Hellbent hootenanny, you say?
Could it be?
Yes, indeed.
A hootenanny of the Hellbent persuasion? Yes, I do believe. A hootenanny in which Hellbenders from all over can gather in one location.
JD Smooth wants to know, are there any camo t-shirts coming out?
I don't know. Let me see.
Is that something you
is a
all
possibility.
would like?
Now, I can do some more OD green. I definitely have OD green as an option. I don't know about camo. I will look into that because I think the Blaze Orange logo on the camo would be sweet. So
still trying to figure out how to increase my subscription. I guess you're talking about your membership. Post in the Discord. A couple people have done that.
Yeah, and they will be able. We can't like go into the information.
We don't have any.
We have no access to the information.
We do not have access to your banking information.
And that is handled through YouTube. So post in the Discord, and somebody on there, several people on there have upgraded through the course of the past few months.
And we appreciate the support. We're supported by the community. Okay, so
Terry.
All right.
Back it up, Terry. All right. Thank you guys for joining us. We appreciate you all. We are delirious as crap from this past.
Yeah, we're going to go eat and I'm to bed. So.
Yeah. So thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. We will
Lady
see
Wolf,
y'all.
Kim Drescher, thank you all for modding tonight for both of us.
Absolutely.
I talked to Lady Wolf shortly before I went on because she knows that the LBL topic usually brings them out of the woodwork. So I know Lady Wolf was talking about how she was rearing and ready to go.
Causes the worms to wiggle like
Lycan Claw. Thank you. Taking us out on that.
Lycan Claw.
Thank you, Lycan. We appreciate that. So,
all right, guys.
But anyway, we appreciate it, y'all. We appreciate it greatly. And we,
Mr. Cooper,
will,
my boy,
talk to y'all soon.
That's a good boy. That's a good boy. All right, guys. We love y'all. Take it easy. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other. Till next time. Bye, guys.